at least for the rest of the day. So thank you about it. So can I start now?
Yeah,
can I just
you can upload.
I'm going to share my screen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So at the end of your life, if we have, all of us have thought about what we would like to be remembered for and what would be the best epitaph for us. And I think for me, I would say, if somebody said hers was a life well lived, I think that is the best epitaph that I would like for myself. Sometimes you have to look back in order to understand the things that lie ahead. And I hope there are youngsters also in the audience, because I am going to walk you through my life and what I learned, the life lessons I learned, and how Arjun and I have decided to live our lives. And that's why I called my talk Rethink, Renew, and Reinvent. Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom, Aristotle said. And it is very, very important that you know yourself, you know what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and how you will proceed and deal with the rest of your life, depending on what you assume are your strengths and weaknesses. I'm just putting a timer for 1 second. Right. Right. So, having a medical degree, I mean, I think when I was in my 5th class, I think that's all, from that day onwards, that's all I wanted to be, was a doctor. It's not always the prime aim of every child to be a doctor. But for me, that was it. I had no other ideas in my head. I wanted to be a doctor. And we know that having a medical degree may be the ticket to a good life. We know that doctors do well, more than most other professions. But we always thought, Arjun and I, why can't we think of it as our ticket to bring about change? We have been lucky to get a medical degree. And then we were also lucky at that time to go to the US, get our residencies. Arjun did surgery, I did obstetrics and gynecology. And at that point, I think from my class alone, close to 90 people had left, mostly for the US, but also the UK. But we felt that we were so lucky to get this kind of an education there, that we should come back and give it to people who could not afford to, or for whatever reason, could not go to the US. So in our 30s, we came back. My son was 10 months old when we came back. And at that point, we were very, very clear that we were going to change the way medicine was practiced, the way obstetrics and gynecology was practiced. We had this very bright outlook. We said we were going to, the road was straight, everything was easy, we were going to do it. We were young, we were foolish. I was 29, Arjun was 30. And we were, we thought everything was easy, but we know that life is not that simple. And there are always thunder clouds ahead of us. And we did face our, the first few years were tough. There was no question about it, because we had been trained in one particular way and we were trying to bring about change in a very set kind of a practice in this city, in this country. We had trained at St. Francis Hospital, a very state-of-the-art, extremely well-equipped hospital. And then I came back to actually the hospital I was born in, E.V. Kalyani Medical Center, which was started in 1949. And slowly we changed it to E.V. Kalyani Medical Center. Instead of E.V. Kalyani Nursing Home, which has switched it to Medical Center. And it was not easy. It was an uphill task. And the only way we could practice medicine was to adapt. We did not have all the equipment that I was used to practicing with in the US, but we knew that we could adapt and we could give the best kind of care. And the only way we could adapt was to reassess and reevaluate what was important. How could we bring that kind of practice back to this country, to this city, without having to charge huge amounts for patients? William Blake said, "I must create a system or be enslaved by another man's. I will not reason and compare. My business is to create." As soon as we came back, we tried to become professors, assistant professors, whatever, in government hospitals. But at that time, the honorary system had been removed, and we could not. We had left applications. They would not let us join. So we said, okay, we can do this outside, and we can teach outside the system. And that's what we did. We adapted medical care to resources. We are a low resource country, and so we have to adapt medical care to resources without any compromise on patient care. And we were determined to provide affordable care. When I came back in 1981, my consultation fees was 10 rupees. And I was working with Dr. E.V. Kalyani, a doyen in obstetrics in this city, in this country. And after a while, after a year or so, I managed to convince her that our consultation fees should be 30 rupees. And one of the first laparoscopes, in fact, I brought the laparoscope with me from the US. We had a CTG machine, which I brought back, and we also set up ultrasound machines. We were one of the first private hospitals to set up in the city of Chennai. In fact, our hospital, E.V. Kalyani Medical Center, is the longest continuously running hospital, maternity hospital in the city of Chennai, private hospital. It's been there from 1949. We are hitting this 23rd year this year. Or no, we have 73rd year this year. We just completed. And in 1982, I also started Mediscan with Dr. Suresh, because at that point, ultrasound, I was the only person who had trained in ultrasound. Suresh and Indrani also had started training in Bombay in ultrasound. And so we started it. So my aims were very clear. We had to bring everything that was technologically possible, the latest, for giving the best care for women of Chennai. But at that point, we also found that our nurses had not had the training that they should have had. So Arjun and I used to take every Thursday, we started doing in-house training for nurses, skills training, teaching them about electronic fetal monitoring, teaching them about post-operative care. We were very, very particular about what kind of care our patients should get. And we introduced protocols and processes. This is, I think, a strength of this hospital and of also the hospital that Arjun started, Sundara Medical Foundation, that we had strict protocols and processes in place, because that makes it easy to practice and guarantees a certain level of expertise for the patients. Long before COVID, many years before COVID, I introduced this habit of going, if you went from one patient to the other, the nurse would not let you go in unless she sanitized your hands, okay? So it was a nurse's job, and we empowered the nurse to stop any doctor before they entered a room by giving them the sanitizer. We also started using gloves, part of universal precautions. Even today, I'm going to hospitals where I see nurses are not wearing gloves when they're drawing blood or starting IV fluids. We were using steri-strips on our wounds right from the day I came back. We introduced epidurals for labor patients, which was unheard of in a private hospital. We introduced it almost a quarter of a century ago. So you have to go against the grain. You have to refuse to conform. You have to take the road less traveled instead of the well-beaten path. It's easy to follow what is already there, what has already been put in the system, but we decided to change a lot. We started in 1981, we started allowing husbands in the labor room. And this was quite a shock, because a lot of mothers or mothers-in-law will come and say, no, 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 please don't ask my son to come in. He's very weak. I'll come in if you want. I said, no, no, I don't want your help. I think his wife is the one who requires his presence and help and strength, support from him. And also, quite frankly, it helps when the woman wants to yell at somebody or scratch somebody or kick somebody. It's very nice to hand over the husband to her. She can do anything to him. At least it saves us and the nurses. So immediately after the delivery, there's a corridor outside the labor room. The husband would carry the baby, and we had a big viewing window where the parents of the grandparents and the relatives, and sometimes even the next door other patients would also come and see. But so husbands were very much a part of labor and delivery. We also introduced charts and permanent patient records. I was very particular. This was a 4-page chart for obstetrics. It was filled out exactly the same way everybody did this. We had very clear, important data there, allergies, everything was cleared. Like this woman is a very high risk, gravida 5 para 4 number alive was 0. So we made sure that these charts were maintained, and after 5 years, they were entered. As you can see, this computer is extremely old because we started it very, very early on. So we had a software program made for us. We would enter the chart. After 5 years, the obstetric charts were thrown away or were disposed of. As far as the gynec charts were concerned, we kept them. The patients had a specific number. Anytime they came back, we could pull it out even if they had come 10 years later. So we maintained records, and it was very comfortable to follow a patient if you had their records. And remember that our hospital was not a huge corporate hospital. Ours was a very small 30-bedded hospital, and we made sure that we took a decision not to expand it because we wanted to give a particular kind of care that we could do only in a small hospital. At the same time, in the 1980s, I think this was in 1982, we started doing CMEs, conferences and workshops because, as I said, this was on fetal monitoring. As I said, the reason we came back was, one of the reasons we came back was we wanted to go ahead and teach and teach and teach and pass on not only medicine, but also ethics and the right way of practicing medicine. And of course, when you're young, and when you have children, there's also a very difficult thing to maintain your life-work balance. So anytime we went for a conference, I would take the children along because those days you only went in the train. So you had time in the train. There were no mobile phones. Nobody could contact you. And you had one-on-one time with the children. And that's one of the reasons that when you bring up your children as an obstetrician, you have to focus so much on them whenever you can give them quality time. And, working mothers, as all of you know, become masters of time management. My daughter used to stand outside the door saying, it's already 7:30 at night. Why are you not home? And then she'll bug my nurses and all that. But you learn. They also learn that the mother is working, and they also are very cooperative. Not only are you working as an obstetrician, you're taking care of your children. Sometimes they're fighting, they're screaming, yelling. You also have to take care of your in-laws or your parents, because women are multitaskers. I don't think any man can do this. We also have to be master chefs. It's not enough if we just cook anything. What they want is, my friend's mother made this wonderful stuff, so you have to be master chefs. And also you're very, very lucky if your husband pitches in and takes care of the kids when you're off for a delivery. So we also realized, and I was very particular, that we should have a group practice. So 2 years after I came back, I started, of course, Dr. E.V. Kalyani was still practicing along with me, but she was already 75 when I came back. amazing lady. She had to be literally asked to retire at the age of 83. She could not understand why she had to retire, because we just said, you need to enjoy life beyond this. She couldn't understand it at all. So in 1983, we started having young doctors. They joined as full-time registrars. No question of coming in at 9 o'clock and leaving at 3 or something like that. You join, you want to learn, you are going to be a full-time registrar. You are on call, you do everything. And when they had worked with me, and they had worked with me for 2 years, they progressed on to a junior consultant. And then after that, they got independent practice. My advice to all my youngsters who joined me was, I want you to be so good that a patient who comes to register, to book for a doctor in this hospital says, oh, I can't get Geeta Arjun. That's fine. I would like to see this doctor. I said, the day they ask for you, that's my triumph, because I have trained you so well that they have started asking for you. All the patients, however, belong to the hospital. So there's no hostility between consultants. Nobody was trying to take another's patient. Everybody was our patient. We saw them by turns. So even if one of us was not in town the day that she delivered, she knew that she was seeing a person she is already very familiar with. So there is no question of suddenly a new person, a stranger showing up and delivering them. So all patients belong to the hospital. And there are very great advantages to group practice. Emergencies can be handled as a group. You know that when something goes bad in obstetrics, it can go bad very rapidly. And so when there's an emergency and all of you are there, you can handle it as a group. There's a 24/7 labor room coverage. There's always an obstetrician in the room, in the labor room, which is extremely good for the patient. She feels cared for, and most importantly, it's good for all of us, because we know that even if something is going wrong, somebody can pick it up long before things can really go down the drain. We also insisted from the very beginning of auditing our delivery rates, our perinatal mortality rate, and that is why we were able to keep our total cesarean section rates very low, between 22 to 25%. This is in a practice where 40% of our patients were high risk. And this also helps keeping it low, because you're not saying, oh, I have to go to another hospital, I have clinic there, let me finish the cesarean and go off. You're under no pressure. You have all the time to allow her to go through with a normal vaginal delivery. And in Robson's group 1, where a woman is 37 weeks or more, it's a vertex presentation, and this woman has gone into spontaneous labor. Our cesarean section rate was most often less than 9%, but on the whole, less than 10%. So we were auditing from day one. We had no question about it. We had no doubts about it. And if at all it went up one number also, we sat down and figured out why that was going on. The other advantages is that you're ongoing teaching and passing on of skills. I was extremely lucky to have been trained by one of the finest gynec oncologists in the US, and I was so determined to pass on operating skills. So if I did a hysterectomy, I would do my side and they would do their side. So, so they learned, and I was there to hold their hands, to teach them every little skill, how to hold the artery forceps, how to hold the needle holder, how to tie knots. They could not start operating till they had learned how to tie single-handed knots. We taught them, and instrument knots, all those things I taught them, personally taught them, and passed on skills. And then, of course, everybody gets some time off. You can get a weekend off because somebody else is on call. And your children are definitely happier because they get to have some more time. Of course, being the senior most, I was always on call, in the sense that if there was a problem, I was there to run in and help them out. But that's something that you have to take on as your own responsibility. When I reached my 40s, I thought it's time to rethink my life. I had to start thinking about new things. What else? What have I done in the past decade? What am I going to achieve further? So at that point, I started rethinking my goals. And one of the things that I decided is that I would go in for maternal fetal medicine. So in 1991, we set up the maternal fetal medicine unit in our hospital. Along with Suresh, we started doing intrauterine transfusions. We started doing a lot of procedures and amniocentesis, chorionic villus sampling. So we proceeded because we already had such a high-risk population. So we went ahead and started a maternal fetal medicine unit. Also, I had to then start, pushing this, not just the skills to my own youngsters, but to also push it across to as many people as we could. And that's why we started the Practical OG Congress, or what is popularly known as Progress. From 1993 to 2017, we had 800 to 1,000 delegates at almost for all our conferences held twice in Myanmar. And the thing is, we started on time at 9 o'clock, we ended at 5 o'clock. And at 5 o'clock, we literally had to tell the delegates, the conference is over, you can leave, because no one was outside. They talk about outstanding conference where everybody is standing outside. No, that didn't happen in our conference. Our conference, everybody was in there because every speaker we chose was giving practical advice, something that anybody could use in their own conference and we in their own practice. And we really spent a lot of time working out the themes and the topics. We also have to, as we go along in our practice, we also have to rethink a lot of our clinical practices. We may be doing something routinely, but then evidence might come up saying that it has changed. Remember that what William Osler said, the good physician treats the disease, the great physician treats the person who has the disease. Do not ever, ever forget that we are treating a human being. That's why I would never allow anybody in our hospital, including our nurses, to say room number 5 has fever. I said, no, Sunita in room number 5 has fever, okay? Because you cannot take away the humanity of the person in that room by saying room number 5, bed number 7. You have to say the person's name, you have to know them, you have to know their history, everything, right? So when it's one of the examples I will give you about constantly changing practice based on evidence. And I think that is the greatest achievement that Arjun and I had in our practice, was that we were very focused on evidence. We looked at evidence, we always kept up, and we changed our practice based on that. Not just by going to a conference and listening to it, but actually researching it and finding out, okay? When we started, we talk about single or double layer suturing of the cesarean scar, the uterine scar. Traditionally, it used to be double layer. When I was training in my residency, it was a double layer. And then in 1992, Houth and his group said that a single layer closure is faster and it's an absolutely safe technique. So we switched. We started doing a single layer closure of the cesarean scar. But in 2002, a paper came out which said there is a 4-fold increase in uterine rupture with single layer closure. If the woman goes into labor with the next pregnancy, there's a 4-fold increase in uterine rupture. So at that point, we went back to double layer suturing, but we did single layer suturing when we were also sterilizing the patient. So you have to go ahead and constantly reevaluate, reassess, check evidence, and go back to good practices or go on to good practices. So again, if you look at the pandemic, I think we have learned a lot of lessons from the pandemic, and that's what we have to do. Every challenge that we face in practice, we have to learn something from it. Teleconsultations. We have realized that teleconsultations are a great way of not messing up your consulting area. You don't have huge number of people sitting there waiting for 2 hours, 3 hours to see you. So teleconsultations have done well. And we also realized that there can be professional burnout when somebody works very, 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 very hard, like most doctors did during COVID. And we have to adapt to changes that are patient-centric, but also physician-friendly. We cannot forget that the doctors cannot be overworked. We have to be focused on the patient, but we also have to make it easier for the doctor. So because we know that the COVID put a huge stress on doctors, it was profession versus family. Should I take care of patients who are struggling, or should I protect my family by not going to the hospital at all? Because otherwise I might bring back COVID and my family, some family member might die. So this has been a very strange time for all of us, and a very strong lessons that we have learned from it. So when I came to my 50s, I also decided we have to renew. We have done so many things. I have rethought my practice. I've added things to my practice. Now, in my 50s, what can I do to renew my practice? Okay, my life, my medical profession. What do I do? So at that point, of course, I had started writing. This was the Passport to a Healthy Pregnancy, which has become the #1 bestseller for pregnant women all around the country. I also brought out the Tamil version, which was released by Surya. So at that point, I started changing the way I was looking at my medical practice. You also have to renew knowledge. You cannot continue with the MD notes that you had 20 years ago. You have to constantly renew knowledge. And for this, luckily, we have a lot of guidelines that we can follow. And it's important that you keep up with these guidelines, especially up to date. I don't think I could survive even today. I'm 70, but I could not survive unless I had my subscription to Up to Date. All these things, we are constantly checking. If there is any new evidence which is coming up, we have to learn to look for it. We have to learn to know where to look for it. That's the most important thing. I also decided at that point to renew my identity. I said, okay, I'm a medical practitioner. I'm a maternal fetal medicine specialist. What else do I do? Okay. At that point, Professor Arul Kumaran invited me to be an editor for the 3rd edition of the Management of Labor. And it was a learning curve for me. I'm not in a teaching hospital, though I've been teaching outside the system. I'm not in a teaching hospital, but that book is still very popular, and we are coming out with the 4th edition shortly. I wrote the Practical Guide to Obstetrics, Passport to a Healthy Pregnancy, Essentials of Obstetrics. All this, remember, while I was still practicing. So where do I find the time? Midnight. Lot of hours spent late at night. And you have to be a little obsessive compulsive to do all this, because you not only have to write, you also have to make sure that you're writing the right thing, the correct thing, with no errors at all. So it's a lot of effort, but so well worth it. You also need to renew your passion. We all start facing a little bit of burnout. There's too much pressure, too much stress. Something goes wrong, a baby dies, a mother dies. You're so upset, but you have to renew your passion and your compassion. I think what is most important is what you feel for your patients. You cannot get impatient. You can't get angry. You cannot use foul language. You cannot be shout. You cannot shout at them just because they have to put up with you. You have to renew your passion and your compassion. As far as I'm concerned, I feel that curiosity for medicine, about medicine, is one of the greatest gifts that we have, and we should have an intense curiosity about medicine. We cannot accept anything about medicine without going and looking for it and researching it and reading up about it. Our caring for our patients cannot be anything but unconditional. It is your motto. It is your life goal. It's the only thing that should drive you, is that your care for your patients. It cannot be, one day I care for them, one day I don't care for them. I like this patient, I don't like that patient. No, everyone, just like we unconditionally love our children, whatever trouble they get into, we have to unconditionally care for our patients. And commitment to our profession is not something that you can just one day say yes, another day no. It's a lifelong commitment. It's got to be intense all your life. And this is something I tell all my youngsters: champion the patient's cause. Okay, the patient is the most important. Go ahead and make sure that the patient is not getting cheated. Do not follow unproven and unscientific practice. The problem is big pharma is constantly bribing doctors, constantly encouraging them to write the wrong kind of medications, because doctors feel obliged to some pharma company because they flew them somewhere or drove them somewhere or gave them a party or put them up in a 5-star hotel. But remember, it's the patient. For every 5-star hotel that you stay in through a pharma company, the patient is paying 5 paise to 5 rupees on each tablet because of you. Okay, so remember, and do not follow unproven and unscientific practice. This is my favorite thing. Everybody who has listened to me talk at conferences know that I am so against progestogens for preventing miscarriage. It's not a personal hate. There is no evidence that progestogen given in the beginning, in the first trimester pregnancy, can prevent miscarriage. Okay, there's Cochrane database systematic reviews in 2021, a committee opinion of the American Society for Reproductive Medicine and the Society for Reproductive Endocrinology and Infertility in 2021. They've all said there's no evidence for giving progestogen to prevent miscarriage. The Royal College, in their NICE guidelines, they say you can give progestogens in the first trimester if a woman has had a previous loss and is spotting. But what do we find now? No history of pregnancy loss earlier, but people are just constantly giving progestogen along with antenatal vitamins. They're also being, patients are getting progestogens. So protect the patient. Don't worry about pharma. It's your obligation to the patient that you give the right treatment. Sorry, something has happened. I'll just try again.
Maybe you pressed a wrong button.
I think so. Yeah.
You press escape and see.
Yeah, that's what I tried.
Unshare and share again.
Yeah, that's what I've done. I'm going to stop share and okay.
Okay.
Okay, there is a red line in the middle of it. I don't know where it came
from. That is somebody is trying to do the annotations.
Oh, they've done it on my slide, is it? Okay.
Yeah. No, they wanted to, whenever they've, I think our admin should have removed that facility.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell them to remove it if possible. Okay. Yeah. So when I came to my 60s, of course, I decided to reinvent myself. Just to show that I ran a marathon, a 10-kilometer run, and it's not a full marathon, a 10-kilometer run, because I said, I can do it, and I thought I should do it. And I think we have to constantly challenge ourselves. We have to keep on doing things to prove that you can. And also at this point, I had reached a point where I was climbing, but I was not sure where I was climbing to. I was very happy with what my profession. I was very, very satisfied with what I had done. I had no regrets. But at the same time, I was thinking, old obstetricians never retire. They just aren't able to deliver anymore. The stress was there. And, Arjun and I he's 9 months older than I am. So when I turned 60, and he had just turned 69 months earlier, we had a chat and he was saying, we have only 10 more years. And it's not like 10 more years that we're going to live and we're going to die in 10 years. It was just 10 more years of doing what we can in this life. Because two things are guaranteed. You're born, we know the date of that. You're going to die, we don't know the date for that. But in that time, there are so many things that you can do, and it's important that we should.
Madam, kindly unmute me.
We can't hear you, madam.
Dr. Geeta, I think you have muted yourself. Can you kindly unmute?
Kindly unmute, ma'am.
Arun, can you do it from your side?
Madam, sir, I am trying, sir.
Hello, Dr. Geeta, I think you have to unmute yourself. Hung, is it? Yeah, okay. But it was going on so well. Everybody wanted to. Can you just keep talking, please? Okay.
Sir, you got a pop-up now, sir. Unmute, unmute.
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing I am sending to madam also.
Okay. Did you mute everybody? This one, Arun?
No, sir.
Okay.
They
I
can
think.
mute and unmute.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, but it is moving now. I can see that.
Yeah, slide is moving, sir, but it is unmuted.
But, okay, now it is better. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Play. Yes.
Sorry
Yes.
about that. Can you
No
hear me
problem.
now?
Yes,
It's
very
okay.
clear,
Yeah,
and everything is good.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You're
Did
back.
we stop here, I think, right?
Yes, correct. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So at 60s, I decided to reinvent myself. I ran a marathon just because I knew I could, or not a marathon, but a 10-kilometer run. And, Arjun and I had turned 60 at the same time. He's 9 months older than I am. And we were discussing it one day. And he said, we have only 10 years left. And it doesn't mean that we're going to die in 10 years. The one thing we are guaranteed, we know, is that time of birth or date of birth. When we're going to die, we don't know. But what we were discussing is that 10 years of a good life, 10 more years where we guaranteed can do a lot of things, which we may not be able to do after 70. So at that point, at 61, I took a decision because I was climbing up. I was at the peak of my practice. I was doing extremely well. I had every reason to keep climbing. But at that point, I took a decision because old obstetricians never retire. They just aren't able to deliver anymore. And I felt that as far as my practice was concerned, I was going to have to make a lot of compromises, and I was not willing to do that. So I took a leap of faith. And I jumped into retirement. Now, I don't want to use the word retirement because I did not retire from life. I retired only from medical practice. Because very often we hear about the 5 regrets of dying people. When you think about it, this was a book written by Bronnie Ware, who was a nurse, and she sat down and she was in a geriatric hospital and she spoke to a lot of old people. She said, what are your biggest regrets? And the regrets were, I wish I had had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. Because we keep on working because we say, oh my goodness, people, what will patients do without me? We have this, great inflated concept about ourselves saying, what will patients do without me? I am so good. What will they do without me? But ultimately, people die, doctors die, and then the patients go to somebody else. So you have to think, we don't have to continue to do it just because it's expected of you. And remember, I loved my practice. I absolutely enjoyed every bit of it. I have done anything and everything that an OBGYN can. There's no regrets. But the second thing was, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. This is something a lot of people said, and I will come back to that. I wish that I had let myself be happier. We keep running on that, on the rat race. We're constantly on the treadmill of work, but we don't allow ourselves to be happy. I wish I had taken time to express my feelings. We're so busy with our life that we don't even speak to our husband or our children or our parents. I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends because we are so busy, we don't have time to go anywhere. But the other thing, and that a lot of people talk to me about, ask me about, is I wouldn't know what to do if I was not working. Any number of my colleagues said, I don't know even on a Sunday, if I can't go to the hospital, I am bored. I don't know what to do. I go crazy, right? But you remember that your future begins in the past. You have to develop interests, passions, and delights outside medicine. And you do this in your 40s, okay? You don't turn 65 or 70 or 75 and say, okay, I'm going to retire and I want to be entertained. Okay, I want to have a full life. I want to do everything. I want to be, every day I want to get up and I want to have something new to do. It won't happen unless you have already built that into your life. So Arjun and I have literally been planning our retirement from our 40s because we used to say, we don't want to be like those people who don't know what to do once they retire. I'll come back to this. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. Think about it. On a deathbed, will any gynecologist say, I wish I had done 10 more hysterectomies, or I wish I had delivered 100 more babies? No, they'll say, I wish I had done so many other things. I wish I had time to spend with my children. I wish I had taken trips with my husband. I wish I had just relaxed. So you have to spend meaningful time with your partner, your children, your parents, and just working hard. You know that your family is constantly complaining. All of you have had that, right? So why do people work so hard? Because I've heard old doctors, 80, 81, saying, I have to provide for my children and grandchildren. That's not true. You owe the children an excellent education. You owe them exposure to plays, poetry, drama, museums, travel. Give them everything that you can as a person, as a mother. You can do all that. You owe your children your love and respect. Okay, you owe them that all their lives. But you're not responsible for their happiness for their entire life. Don't take it upon yourself that I'm going to do everything. I'm going to build them houses. I'm going to buy them cars. I'm going to make sure that they marry well. I will make sure that my grandchildren will have houses. It's not your job. Your job was to have provided a good education for your children. If you love something, set it free. If it comes back, it was and always will be yours. Let your children go. If it just sits in your living room, messes up your stuff, expects restaurant quality food, wants your bills to be paid, and never seems to know that you actually set it free in the first place, you either married it or gave birth to it. Okay, so let them go when they have to. Remember that if you don't give yourself time, there'll be never enough time to do the nothing you want. Sometimes, don't you wish I just could sit down and do nothing? I don't have to worry about a patient. I don't have to worry about this lecture. I just want to do nothing. And then you may also find that suddenly, when you are retiring, you've had a stroke or you've had a severe problem, and there might be never enough time to do everything you want. There's so many things that goals that you want to fulfill before you die. You may not have the time to do that. Be kind to yourself, okay? Do not constantly say, oh, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. You have achieved a lot. Achieve serenity and peace for yourself. Go ahead and enjoy life. This is me in York, and that's the advantage of growing older. You don't have to be embarrassed. I'm standing with a half-naked hunk in the middle of the road and getting photographs taken. That's fine. So enjoy yourself. Don't constantly look over your shoulder and say, what will other people think? People will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And that's important, that you constantly are kind to people. How much of financial security do you need? How much is enough? Remember that there is a zero baggage allowance on the final journey. You cannot take anything with you. Does money equal happiness? I don't think so. Plan to die poor. Okay, that's what we have told our children all our lives. We are going to die poor. We are going to spend all of it. Okay, we have spent enough on your education, and luckily for me, they are both standing on their feet. They do not look to us for any financial support, but die rich in experiences. Okay, I have traveled. I have gone on horseback in Bhutan. I have just returned from Spiti. Went up to 14,800 feet. Did it, and I don't think it's something I will ever regret. Find the thin places in the world, because there are some places where there is no difference between you and the universe. They're just places of extreme beauty and serenity and calm. Find those places. Also enjoy yourself. When you go abroad, don't go looking for idlis and dosa in Indian restaurants. Eat what they give you. Enjoy the local food. And when you go to Lucknow for a conference, don't go sit in a 5-star hotel and ask for pasta. Eat the street food, enjoy the street food. And that's what I have done all my life. Look for good things everywhere. Remember that random acts of kindness is extremely important, and the act of charity bestows many benefits. It reduces the attachment of the giver towards material objects. So give away whatever you have, give it away, it'll come back. But effective altruism, don't go and throw it in a hundi in a temple. Make sure that you give it to somebody with impact, somebody's education. We have educated so many children, deserving children. Make sure there's a long-term effect of your altruism. and it should be life-changing. Every day, sit down and write the joy or gratitude journal, because we are very quick at complaining, but we forget that every day we should count our blessings. I'm just going to quickly finish about food and fitness, because that's very, very important. I've always emphasized it. This is a good formula: 0 sugar, 1 large salad, 2 cups of vegetables, and whatever you eat, you should eat 3 hours before going to bed. And I'm not saying you should only eat 1 large salad and 2 cups of vegetables. No, but this should be a daily part of your diet, okay? And Arjun and I have been on 1 meal a day for many years now, because ultimately that's all you require. You don't need huge numbers of amounts of food. Avoid all the white foods, white rice, white sugar. Salt is not good for you. Refined flour, stay away from all that. Stay fit and constantly keep yourself going. Ikigai is a lovely Japanese word. It says that you wake up with a purpose, okay? Every day you have something or the other to look forward to every day. It's never something that you wake up in the morning and say, oh, what am I going to do? No, every day give yourself a goal. And for me, gardening has been my passion, and it gives me huge amount of joy. I have got beautiful gardens, which I maintain. I love, love, love doing all this. So this is something that I truly enjoy. And of course, you know that I have brought out several books, all again, punishing myself because it requires a lot of work, but we have brought out the 2nd edition of Essentials of Obstetrics, 2nd edition of Passport to Pregnancy, Passport to a Healthy Pregnancy. And I have just released a practical guide to obstetrics, the 2nd edition. The last thing that I will say in life, a very good thing is to have no expectations from your parents, no expectations from your children, no expectations from your partner. If you have no expectations, whatever they give you, you are very, very, very happy. And acceptance that this is life, this is what it is, and this is what it's going to be like. Thank you very much. I'm sorry for the little glitch in the middle. I'm so sorry about that, but I think it's done now.
Yes, Dr. Geeta, it was almost like a life lesson for all of us, how you started your journey and how you kept on adapting yourself to the different needs of the day, time, persons, and people, and how you reinvented yourself as you started your journey for the end game. That is very, very important for all of us. All of us, as you said, are going to die one day, but how you prepare, so that is extremely important. And I don't think anybody could have spelled it out so beautifully and so eloquently as you have done.
Thank you, Murli. Thank you so much.
Yeah. There have been so many chats here throughout. I was just watching them, and I would like to.
Is there any way I can look at them?
Yeah, but I request now our chairman, Dr. Kasturi Donimat, to handle this part of it.
Yeah.
If there are any questions also. You can unshare yourself now, stop sharing so that we can see you.
Yeah, I'm trying to stop share.
Okay.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah. Kasturi, over to you.
Yeah. Excellent talk, madam. I am not able to on my video, but anyway, excellent talk. I like it was really inspiring. Every word was so meaningful. Actually, we'll apply this rethink, reinvent, and this your message in our life also. So as you told, we obstetricians are always busy. Only we are thinking of the work whole day, and I think we are not giving much time to the family. Now I was self-auditing myself when you were talking. So there was so much take-home practical messages. Like really, I'm from tomorrow only. I'm going to implement so many things you have told, madam. And there are so many excellent messages from the audience. I'll just read some of them. I'm an admirer of your great couple. Never missed the Progress Conference from 1993 to
Hello,
2000.
Dr. Nagaraj. How are you, Dr. Nagaraj?
So, Nagaraj sir, our patron.
All of you can unmute yourself. Anil, you can unmute everybody.
Yeah.
Arun,
Unmute Nagaraj sir and others.
yeah, everybody you can unmute. All are your fans here, Dr. Geeta.
I know. I realize that I see so many good names.
So, sir, the senior person, he really is your fan, and he has attended every Progress Conference from 1993 to 2017. What
Yes.
an amazing, really.
Yes.
And one more message from Shobha Gudi. It is like a conference oration, really. And really, Dr. Shobha, you are.
Thank you, Dr. Shobha.
Yeah.
Hi, Dr. Geeta. Wonderful listening to you. I
Thank
can't
you,
describe-
Shobha.
Wonderful. And also, you know what? I think we all deserve that. You should pen this down. You should write a book on life skill of an obstetrician.
It's,
I think that will be
Yeah.
your legacy. And subject you have taught us enough, and we have learned so much from your talks in the past. And Progress was something I have participated, and
Yes, Shobha.
it
Yes.
has its own glory and its charm, and I was really disappointed when it stopped. Many like me were disappointed, actually. So we do hope that you do it one last time, and in that you release this book of yours.
I have actually I am coming up with a book, but it's not just this. It's an interesting book, non-medical book. I will.
Yeah.
I will
Yeah.
when
Okay.
it's
That
all
will be
done,
great.
I will let you know. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
eagerly
It will
waiting
be the bestseller, come more than your book on obstetrics and those kind of things. It will
Thank you.
Manjula Patil.